guys, Matt Jones in Seoul, looking down on Gwanghwamun. You can distinctly hear the preparations for the rallies tonight, the candlelit rally. It's I've lost count of what number it is now, but they basically began at the end of October last year and have been going consecutively through right until now, with the exception of the Lunar New Year when they took a break for people to go to their families and just enjoy that celebration. But even through Christmas and New Year's Eve, they actually continued. So a quick glimpse of Seoul on the 18th of February, which makes it the 49th day of what I'm calling 100 Days to Harvest. Exploring the story of friendship between Australia and Korea. It's sort of really got not much to do with the friendship between Australia and Korea, looking down on these protests. But it's very significant about the point at which Korea finds itself right now. A guy called Lee Jae-yong, who is basically the president-elect of the Samsung Corporation, has just overnight been jailed on charges of corruption, and it sort of tightens the dragnet around Park Geun-hye, the president who's been stood down pending the motion of impeachment being upheld or dismissed by the Constitutional Court. But certainly the signal it sends is that they're taking the issue very seriously, and I imagine that we'll sort of have an outcome about that sooner rather than later. They've said the Constitutional Court will have their last hearing on the 24th of February, and probably announce their response probably a week or two after that. So I think by the end of the first and second week of March, by the 10th of March, we should know what the outcome of the Constitutional Court is. Should Park Geun-hye be found to be that the charges that were brought for her to be impeached are upheld, that means that she'll be removed from being the president, and the fresh elections will be held, which will need to be done before 60 days expire. Which means that fresh elections will probably be held at the end of April or beginning of May. So there's a couple of other things to point out. This will be absolutely packed with people tonight. It's only a couple of thousand people there now, but it will be packed tonight. There's this palace here is the old King's Palace called Gyeongbokgung, with the three-doored gate there, just there, called Cheondaegung, a very famous landmark in Korea, a place of immense national pride, largely stemming back to when Japan colonised Korea and they converted the King's throne room into a boys' gymnasium, and so that sort of indignity that they suffered remains with them for a long time. And then right at the back of this mountain just here, you can see a blue-roofed building called the Blue House, which is the residence of the president. So I guess that's one of the focal points of tonight. After meeting here, they'll march around to the Constitutional Court of the Blue House and get as close as they can, and then they'll come back to this point here to have a celebration again. Look, the reason I think it's relevant to note the protest here in amongst this story of friendship. You know, this is completely without bias, and it's an apolitical examination. But the point is that, you know, it's helpful to know about a country. If we're serious about being about being friendly with someone, we need to know more about them. And the opposing views, pro-Park and anti-Park, for this matter, really, there's very little sitting on the fence. You either think it's a conspiracy by left-leaning pro-North Korean sympathisers, or you think that there's embedded corruption right at the heart of Korean corporate and political structure, and it needs to be resolved. And now So despite all that, Korea is incredibly stable and peaceful amongst all of this, and you know, it's worth taking interest in our neighbours and getting to know them better. I think that's more than just a sign of interest and courtesy, but it's a sign of caring too. And I think the best way to do that is to do it by listening, not necessarily by having strong opinions, which can sometimes be unhelpful, particularly if they're not framed around with a lot of background knowledge. So establishing friendships with Koreans when talking about politics, my advice is do it and listen and learn, and through doing so, I think you'll find also that the closeness between you will also grow. But that's getting ready for another big night here in Gwanghwamun, a view from Korea. Speak to you soon.